5 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Third quarter action. Always Chuck Malamut in the 8 o'clock hour for more than 25 years. Tuesday mornings at 8:05. This program is presented by Chuck Malamut, who is a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. However, before we get to the financial portion of the program with Chuck, did you listen to me in the 6 o'clock hour this morning at all?
Harry,
You did not, right?
Did not, no.
All right, so you missed a beautiful announcement that I made, and I'm simply going to make it again now. And I was congratulating Marley Malamut and Cash Money, and in a Facebook post that I put, I wrote, Marley Malamut is Cash Money, and I put, and a champion. And Marley won the Children's Hunters in her age division 15-17, but I also was able to share that she won the entire Classic, and that she scored 285s. And that was at the Tranquility Farm event that took place. She is racking up the wins, Chuck. And I gave her a big shout out, and I said, I don't know if you're listening, but I'm doing it again at 8:05. So good morning.
Well, thank you, Harry. I'll make sure to.
You got to be proud.
Yeah, we are. It's quite an accomplishment, and you don't like to sit here and brag about your children, certainly, but Harry, I think what's pretty remarkable, that's the third consecutive week of showing where that horse and the rider won Grand Champion. So 3 different locations. That's pretty amazing. So we're certainly proud of Marley and all of her accomplishments. So thanks, and I'll make sure after the show to share that with her, Harry.
Good.
If that's okay with you.
Of course. And I did write a post on her Facebook as well. She's great. She's a champion. All right, so Chuck, Nostradamus, Brother Harry, has just been predicting things wildly correctly, I might add. And I've never been in the crowd that saw all these rate increases ever happening in 2016, even when they kept saying that they're going to happen all over the place in 2016, because we continue to be in unprecedented environment whereby the unemployment number is terrible, and Wall Street did not like that. Wall Street did seem to like what Janet Yellen said yesterday with the Dow up over 100 points. I heard some idiot that talks for a living in your field that obviously never did the job that you do, because he said, very small increase, 100-point. I'm thinking 100-point increase? I said, Chuck, would you take a 100-point increase every day for the rest of your career? I think you would.
Yeah, Harry, it would certainly make our jobs
500 points a week. Every 2 weeks, 1,000. I mean, every month, 2,000. So yeah, give me a break to these idiots that blab about what you know all too well. So let's begin with the Fed and certainly the May unemployment numbers, which were not even anemic. Anemic would be an improvement over what we achieved in May with 38,000 jobs, because I'm not counting, if you didn't count the government jobs, I mean, my gosh. So what do you make of all this, Chuck?
Well, Harry, I think when we looked at the numbers initially, once you work through the shock, because, you look at the screen and you see a number and you say, okay, I must have read that wrong. It must be 138,000. And then the number,
and even that's terrible.
And then the number sits on the screen, and you say, "No, this is real." And we thought for sure the markets would be would get rocked on Friday, but the comments that were made yesterday by Janet Yellen certainly indicate that, Harry, she has, I guess I would say, the pedal to the metal, and is absolutely convinced that we need to increase rates.
But she didn't say that yesterday.
Well, but she did to a certain extent.
She said, when I did my monologue, which you missed this morning, I said it was pretty clever what she did, and markets tolerated it, and I thought it was pretty good, actually. She said both. She said both things.
Well, Harry, what I read into it was that certainly she is going to continue to move in a direction that looking for not one but maybe two rate hikes before
but also
the end
said,
of the year.
But she is concerned about these employment numbers.
Well, so now if you take a look, we print 38,000 jobs. The unemployment rate is now 4.7,
4.7,
which indicates we are at full employment.
Yeah, actually beyond full employment.
And an economy that's growing, certainly not in leaps and bounds.
Fractional growth.
So you begin to. I mean, you've been very, very suspicious of the numbers for the past 20 plus years, and certainly the most 8 years.
The most suspicious. I've always been suspicious, but most suspicious in the last 7.5 years. Chuck, I'm telling you, I'm not a betting man, and you know that because I don't. I'm just not a betting fool. But I would actually wager that there will not be two increases. There will not be two rate increases this year. I do believe there will be the potential for one, and I think it will come in December. But do you believe there will be multiple rate increases?
Well, Harry, I don't. I mean, I was somewhat suspicious to begin with a potential rate hike in June. As everyone sort of turned in that direction.
And that became zero now. Zero chance.
I mean, what's never zero, but it's about a 4% probability. July is highly unlikely as well. So I know what she's saying and what she's trying to stick to her convictions. But the problem is if the markets if the economic numbers do not prove out, then she's not going to get what she's looking for. It is what it is. So, I read her statement, last night, and I'm looking for the actual quote. And here's what she said, Harry.
Okay.
Quote, next week, concurrent with our policy meeting, the FOMC participants will release a new set of economic projections. Those could, of course, differ from the previous set of such projections in March. But speaking for myself, although the economy recently has been affected by a mix of countervailing forces, I see good reasons to expect that the positive forces supporting employment growth and higher inflation will continue to outweigh the negative ones. So you kind of translate it. It's looking at what the Fed does as far as the releasing of the summary of economic projections, which come basically every quarter, where members feel that the economy is going, what's likely path of interest rates. So her sense is that she wants to move. I'm not saying that the markets are going to be able to provide her that opportunity. So after her speech, what happened was the likelihood of an increase in June went to, like I said, 4%, and now 31% in July.
And the Dow went.
And Harry, the markets were up. Prior to her, she spoke in the afternoon. The markets were up triple digit.
Right,
so
but
they
the market knew already what happened with the jobs report.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at
they baked it in.
If you looked at yesterday's numbers around,
let's put it this way: if she had announced a rate hike increase, the markets would have gone down.
Well, yeah, I mean, and certainly that would not have been the forum to do it.
No,
you do it, when the Fed meets.
Yes.
So
here's what I liked, and I like it when she said, I'm only speaking for me because that's not true. A Fed chair, when they speak, they're speaking beyond just them. So I thought that was cool the way she did that. And Chuck, I have to say, and I think it comes with experience, even though she had, pedigree before getting the ultimate Fed chair position, I thought she did a great job in walking the line in a way that she learned how to say something without being clumsy, like some of the other announcements that she made that were clumsy, wound up hurting, the markets. The markets went down because of it. I thought she handled this very, very well.
No, Harry, she's been in a very, very tough spot from day one. So now,
because she desperately wants to raise interest rates.
Yeah, I mean,
and she's seeing an economy that doesn't make economic sense to do it.
Yeah, so now there's So now the forecaster is saying there's a 52% probability they will go in September, and a 21% chance they go again in December. So certainly, if you were a betting person, you're not going to bet that they're going to go twice.
Well, I'm going to bet for December because I know politics, and your show is not about politics. But when there's a Republican president, they will raise interest rates like they did to George H.W. Bush, and they crushed him. I think they did it to him 2 or 3 times during the campaign. They never did it ever to Bill Clinton. They never did it to Obama. They won't do it because the Democrat is sitting now, so it would hurt the Democrat who's running. I don't think they will do it before the election. And if they do, I will stand corrected. But they will do it in December is my prediction.
Harry, I'm going to agree with you on that.
And I even hold December out insofar as let's see how things are by then, because we'll have a couple of full quarters more of data to analyze, and we'll be have a number. Janet Yellen said something that was very smart. She said, "Never get hung up on any one month." You talk about that kind of stuff all the time, Chuck. So I'm okay with that. Let's not get hung up on just the month of May and 38,000 jobs. And there was, in fairness, a significant strike that cost about 20-some thousand jobs. So it would have been more like 50,000, still terrible. So you have that in there. So we won't get hung up on the 1 month. But I'll tell you what, you got to be looking now and see what happens going forward. And if it's not good, then December won't even happen. You don't just raise. Raise rates for the sake of raising rates.
If you look at and again, we're not going to talk politics, but certainly if your former employer is elected with the mindset of running a business, and you've gone on for years talking about the successes and how to run a business and what to do right and what to do wrong. I mean, I'm thinking that, the country, those forecasters are necessarily saying that Trump might not be necessarily good for the markets. December is probably pretty close in to.
Yeah. I personally believe he would be excellent for markets.
Well, look, you worked for the guy for a long time. And what was your claim to fame?
My claim to fame?
Well, in that property, what did you guys do?
We went from 3 diamond 3-star to 4 diamond 4-star.
And what did you? And you did that by what?
By hard work, dedicating,
and
excellence.
Servicing.
Yeah, servicing the client.
Yeah. So, that kind of reminds me. I'm going to kind of veer here a little bit. What's the one thing that we learned very early on in our careers? If you serve a good meal, or you have a happy guest,
they'll tell.
No, everything's good.
Okay.
If you have an awful experience and you have a lousy meal or a lousy experience, what happens? You're going to tell.
That's what I'm getting at. If you have a great experience, you might tell 1 or 2 people. If you have a terrible experience, you're going to tell like 10 people.
Yeah. So
I used to tell my staff every week at our meeting, I would say, every bad experience that we have to have 10 good ones just to make up for that one.
So this kind of reminds me, just last week, I mean, think about our economy here. Mm-hmm. How challenging it is, and we talk about housing, we talk about high unemployment,
foreclosures.
We talk about retail, we talk about restaurants, and my goodness, think about this. Our little team typically have lunch together every day, and we just had we have it brought in. We have it delivered. And literally, we get into almost a fight over something so small, Harry. Marinara sauce. Yeah. And they absolutely the restaurant. And it's not too far from here. It's not one of your advertisers. Okay.
Couldn't be.
No, it wouldn't.
Because it'd be great.
No, it wouldn't be.
Angelonis would be great if it was any others.
So, but we looked at each other and said, "That's it. They're done. We're not going to go here anymore," and it's not like it's a one-off. And so I immediately thought about my friend Harry and his hotel experiences and my hotel experiences. we would be out of our mind.
Yes.
The owner doesn't scream at the customer. So anyway, I got a little bit off track there, but ultimately, I guess what I was trying to say was that, the markets are probably going to be well positioned if, in fact, we get to November and have the right staff in place to make absolutely certain that the country moves forward in a positive direction. So that was kind of I kind of got off track there, but I wanted to.
Well, here's the thing: there's so much competition. If you have some moment of truth like that, you have the choice to never return. It's
so
it's
like
it's like, wow, you didn't get that right. That's like like the milk is sour or something. You just you have so many opportunities.
No, very seldom, as you know, I'm not going to. I don't go out and trash.
Yeah, you're not a knee jerk type reactor, and you know from being an operator, a hotel owner, and the senior hotel executive since the time you were a child. So a great place can have an unfortunate moment where a client receives less than acceptable service. A room could be dirty. A room might not have been, cleaned properly. The hard goods, soft goods might not be, up to snuff. So a maid may just not have done, the right, turnover. And you can always have a bad experience. But sometimes the experience is unrecoverable, like the 1964 Democratic Convention.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I got off track there, but it's just kind of, is how important it is to service, and I think that one of the things that is happening in this economy, because we are so dependent upon technology, that those service levels are not what they were a decade ago.
Well said, Chuck. Let's get our first break in. We're going to be right back. You're listening to Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program for over 25 years. Chuck has been at what he has been doing longer than that. He is the managing director of his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office, and you can reach them at 609-383-2010. I do want to thank a lot of people from Morgan Stanley, including Chuck, of course, and also Chuck's boss for the incredible support in the upcoming 9th Annual Hurley in the Morning charity event. And again, to reach Chuck and his team for all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. And we are brought to you in part this morning by Harbor Pines Golf Club, the official, the exclusive golf club to the Hurley in the Morning program, and also the exclusive and official golf club to the 9th Annual Hurley in the Morning Golf Open, which is set for 10 days from today, which right now, by the weather, and I don't sign on to weather that's being forecasted 10 days out, but if it could be true, please let it be true. 75 or 76 degrees, light wind, sunny day. But still, I want to wait till we're 5 days out and even closer. But if say a prayer for the weather, because we've got hopefully everything else well in hand. And here's a great opportunity. I want to give you, if I told you, get $100 out of your pocket, and I will then put that in my pocket, but I will hand you $125. I think everybody listening would take that deal. You'd be thinking there's got to be strings attached. What's up with that? If I give you 100, you give me 125. We could make a living like that, right? It would be fantastic. Well, call it Dads and Grads at Harbor Pines Golf Club, the Harbor Pines Golf Club owned by the legendary Gerwicks family. Because right now, and it is limited, and they've sold 70% of the allotment, and there's just 15 days remaining. You have an opportunity to purchase a $100 gift card at Harbor Pines, and they will give you an extra $25 for free. Here's the deal. It's a gift card that never expires. You can use that gift card for golfing, for merchandise, food and beverage, and again, it doesn't expire, so you have it for as long as you have the credit on your gift card. Again, 70% of the allotment is already purchased. You can purchase it right from the website, harborpines.com, or give a call over to the golf club at 500 St. Andrews Drive at 609-927-0006. Back in 60 seconds more with Chuck Malamut, our official financial advisor, after this.
New Jersey's elected leaders and the good casinos have a plan for Atlantic City, a plan for hard work. The kind of hard work local 54's casino workers do. But whenever there's a disaster, there's always someone trying to take advantage. The Wall Street billionaire who controls the Tropicana and the Taj Mahal is a wolf. Plenty of money, but always hungry for the next kill. The Taj has put their workers on welfare for health care. We expect the Tropicana will be next. Put us on welfare so the taxpayers take care of us. We're the middle class in Atlantic City. Welfare for health care is a sham. Thank God New Jersey's elected leaders have condemned the Tropicana Taj Mahal welfare plan. So where do you stand? With the real plan or the welfare plan? Stop the Trop and the Taj by not going there. Because on Wall Street, money talks, and they'll listen to that.
Paid for by Unite Here International Union.
Hi, it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the Mayor of the Morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
Hey, thank you. Great one. Another great one is Chuck Malamut. He is here. He continues. We have a lot to talk about in the two segments that we have remaining. We went a little bit long in the first segment. This will be a more mini segment. What's the next item you have? What is this Brexit? What is that?
Oh, Harry.
I've been hearing about it. I've been reading about it.
Well, we don't hear a lot about it domestically because it's not impacting us here in the U.S. Well, maybe it will. So there's a referendum on June the 23rd where the citizens of the U.K. are going to make a decision whether or not they're going to exit from the EU, and it's referred to as Brexit. You think about it. You kind of BREXIT, so it's like British exit. That's how I think they got to that one word. So, if in fact, it gets handicapped, Harry, much like we handicap what the Fed's going to do. So, for a long time, it seemed as if the citizens were inclined not to leave. I'm sorry, we're initially inclined to leave, and then thought this thing through. And until about 2 weeks ago, there was a high probability that they were not going to exit. Now, all of a sudden, it's back on the table, and in fact, they might in fact exit. So think about this for a second. The referendum is obviously causing a fair amount of uncertainty, not only in the UK, but all European-based, countries, along with what's happening here, in the U.S. So, if they, we seem to still believe that they're going to vote to stay in, and if in fact they exit, what would happen is it would have pretty devastating impact on the British pound.
There was a point where it looked like they were going to exit.
Right.
Public
and
opinion
now,
was very strong. So this, I remember last time you and I talked about this, that has changed and it seems more likely now. Does it seem significantly more likely that they will remain?
I would think if you polled this 2 weeks ago, it was an absolute, no chance of exit. Now as you get closer to the date, it seems as if it is now trending where there is a possibility that they're going to exit. So if
that's what I've been saying.
If they leave, first thing you're going to see that equities based in the UK, especially your smaller and mid cap stocks, are going to probably decline when you have this Brexit scenario. And a leave vote, from the EU could also send some what I'll call global shockwaves, across the bow. Not only in Europe but also internationally as well. So
let me throw a curveball in here. Here's what I think. I still think it's going to go down, and it shouldn't. I don't agree with what I'm saying, but this is what I think is going to happen. I wouldn't do this if I were them. I also think the American president hurt this issue when it looked like he was dictating to the United Kingdom how they should vote. And anybody listening, anybody that tells you how you should vote, you don't take that very warmly. But here's what I think about this. We are living, and it's not just here, it's over the pond as well. We're living in very contrarian times. A very good friend of mine believes in that theory of contrarian. He's a good man, and we've talked about it over the years. And I also believe it's a very sort of non-institutional, non-establishment era here and in the UK. And they're very capable of hearing everybody say, don't do it, it's going to be really bad, it's economically terrible. And the American president said, well, they won't be able to do business with you for 20 years or something. And, all those threats. And sometimes, Chuck, people still vote the way they want.
Yeah, so, Harry, if in fact they do exit, so what will happen is it's going to, like I said, probably it's going to impact not only Europe, but also across the pond, so to speak, where we are. So it's going to impact, we think, equities. It's going to impact credit, and resulting in that risk-off environment. We are in risk-on right now. You think about where we are, so we would immediately go to risk-off, as what you mentioned, political instability, and a reversing globalization trend is going to probably lead to higher risk premiums. I agree with you wholeheartedly on this one. This is. We'll go counterpoint oftentimes, but here I'm all in with you. I mean, there's absolutely no reason for the exit. But, the bottom line is that, people...
Except people are sick and tired of the establishment telling them what's good for them. And that's the way that I think this could go down, not for the right reasons. Yeah, so most portfolios that we manage have a probability, have a 20% international exposure, and in that international exposure that we have, it's not just the UK. It's surrounding European countries. It is countries, Japan. And countries in the Far East. So anyway, more to come. We have your golf event first, which will obviously be a very, very successful event, and then thank you for your
support.
And then
we're going to have the Brexit after that on June the 23rd. We can't have that,
Chuck. Let's get our halftime break in. We're going to be right back. 32 minutes past the hour, and to the gentle lady that called in, and I appreciate the polite way that you raised the issue. And again, I'm still undecided whether it was a seminar caller just trying to, make the congressman look bad in an election year, which is in 5 months, or if it's just a legitimate. She sounded like a wonderful person that just, was upset about a vote. I have the answer, and I will share it with you. I went right to Congressman Lobiando's deputy chief of staff and spokesman. I have an it's beyond question, undisputed response for the gentle lady. And anybody that heard how Lobiando allegedly voted on that whole restroom, bill, we will give you the facts after Chuck's program at around 50 minutes past the hour. And so it's perfect that we have that little mini segment to be able to take care of something. See, I think it's very important when something is said, and she was wrong, by the way, but I want to give you the details. I think it's important to set the record straight either way at the earliest possible moment, because a lot of people, potentially thousands of people heard the accusation. I want people to know the correction, the true scope of what went on is coming in about 17 minutes. Back to Chuck and you as Hurley in the Morning continues. And a reminder for all of your financial planning needs, turn to the Malamut Group, the exclusive financial advisors to the Hurley in the Morning program, and to me, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. A friend of mine told me once, you say phone numbers like 3 times because every study will tell you have to hear something 3 times before you hear it once. It's just the nature of life. 609-383-2010. That's 609-383-2010. For more than 20 years, the D'Amato Law Firm has served as the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program. Led by certified civil trial attorney Paul D'Amato, the D'Amato Law Firm focuses their practice in representing those who have been seriously injured in construction, products liability, and motor vehicle collisions. The D'Amato Law Firm expertly handles cases throughout the country, but their primary focus is on representing victims injured right here at home in southern New Jersey. They've earned a reputation for excellence. From direct personal experience, I can readily confirm that the D'Amato Law Firm's overall competence, attention to detail, follow-up systems are outstanding, and they truly shine during your moment of truth before judge and jury. The D'Amato Law Firm is centrally located in Atlantic County at 2900 Fire Road, Suite 200. That's the second floor in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. That's the corner of Fire Road and the Black Horse Pike. For all of your personal injury legal needs, turn with confidence to the region's leader in the field of personal injury. They're the D'Amato Law Firm. Call 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. And please tell the D'Amato Law Firm that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
Experience transfer-friendly firsthand at Stockton University's Transfer Night, Tuesday, June 7th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Register today at stockton.edu/transfer night. Apply now for fall admission.
Hi, I'm Ron Rossi with Rossi Honda and Violin, and our summer sales event is going on now. With 0% available on most models up to 60 months and leasing starting at $99 a month, it's time to rush into Rossi Honda for the year's best selection and great deals. With the all-new Civic, HR-V, and Pilot and the redesigned Accord, we have America's best cars. And as always, every Rossi Honda lease, the oil changes are free up to 3 years or 36,000 miles.
See dealer for details.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 has teamed up with Rossi Honda on South Chelsea Drive in Vineland to bring you the Teen Safe Driving Program. As parents, we need to instruct our teens how to handle emergencies. Remind them not to text while driving and never drink and drive. Bring your teen's car into Rossi Honda for a free safety check, no matter what the type or where you bought it. Or have them come in for a free safety class. Well, they'll learn how to change a flat tire, what to do about a dead battery, or what to do when they run out of gas. Call Rossi Honda for an appointment.
Hurley, Beck, Hannity, and me, Mark Levin, weeknights at 6 on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
That's the great one, Levin. The great one, Malamut, is here as well. All right, Chuck, so we're on overdrive here. We did the Fed, we did May unemployment, we did the Brexit, and now we're going to do, well, we sort of touched on, but let me give you another opportunity just to give a comment on the United States GDP growth.
Your favorite subject.
Well, yeah.
So Harry,
I mean, it's very frustrating when 4.6% was terrible and 0.3 or 0.8 is great.
So if we say this enough, I think ultimately it's going to resonate, and you're probably will make a believer out of you. But last quarter GDP was adjusted to actually 1.4%. We believe that real GDP growth should be between 2 and 3%. Nominal growth should rise to more than 4, since we're seeing some signs of modest inflation. So if, in fact, that happens, Harry, I think you're back to that risk-on scenarios within the equity markets. And even though we are pushing through the high, so to speak, we might end up with a pretty decent summer here.
Hey, that's what we want. We want it to be good.
But almost all the forecasters are saying, no, this is, even if you get the GDP, there's so many cross currents right now, including November, including the Brexit. And I think the one thing that you learn from this is that no matter when you enter or exit the equity markets, there's always going to be another set of circumstances to drive equity prices in one direction or another.
Let me throw out something. It has an impact on GDP, but let me just throw it out there because I've been noticing my corner store for gasoline, and I don't buy, as you know, the regular gasoline. You don't either, but it was at 205.9 forever. Now all of a sudden and that was lower than like the Wawa superstores and some of the other areas. Now it went to 213, and as of yesterday it went to 218.9. Are we seeing a sharp spike in gasoline prices?
Oh, Harry, we are. I mean, if you take a look at yesterday in particular, we had a pretty big rally. Oil seems to have, it has not seems to, but oil has moved significantly higher from where we were in the beginning of the year. The price at, nationally speaking, Harry, as of Friday, was at $2.34 a gallon, compared to a year ago at $2.78, and the price at the where we were at the end of this year, gas was actually at $2.04. So let's kind of put it in the terms of percentages. The price at the pump is up 15%, Harry, year to date. The price of West Texas going into Friday at $48.69 versus $37.13 is an increase of about 30%. So you have that summer blend that we talked about, the conversion, but you also have at the same time, increased demand. And whoever. So let's think about this for a second. Let's talk about
Let's talk about 25 cents though, real quick,
right?
Because that takes a ton out of the economy.
Out of the economy, yeah, it does. Now,
okay.
But we seem to still think that if you look at corporate earnings for Harry, we think they're going to improve later this year. We had a couple drags as we know. Going into the beginning of the year, we had collapsing oil prices, a U.S. dollar that was like through the roof. We think that obviously we've seen it now, certainly in the price of oil. It has come back significantly. First quarter earnings across the board fell about 5%, and a lot of that was attributed to what was happening in the oil patch. Consensus expectations now. We think that earnings are going to grow in the second quarter 1%, 5% in the third quarter, and 7% in the fourth quarter. So we're expecting some fairly significant growth over the next 3 quarters for sure.
Chuck, let's end on something that I know is on your agenda, and it is really one of the operating principles of the more than 25-year career history here of the Hurley in the Morning program. We talk about it all the time: perception versus reality.
Harry, great point. This is just simply amazing here. So let's take a look here for a minute. We look at research all day long, and there was a firm that's called Cornerstone Macro, and they came up with the following. And this, if your listeners take anything away from this hour, our time together, it should be the following. It's not often that you can say that oil prices are up 30% year to date, which we just talked about, and investors are worried about the deflation. It's not often that you can say that the market is close to an all-time high, yet investors are worried about growth. And it's not often that you can say that risk on is working, and yet bullish sentiment is near all-time lows. And it's not often that you can say that the VIX, or the volatility index, is now sitting at about 13, yet investor uncertainty is at modern all-time highs.
So what?
There's Harry. So there is a disconnect here between the data and the attitudes that investors have.
Do you think because all the rules seem to be out the window that what do they say about your lying eyes? You see it, but you don't believe it, and the perception is that it is different than what you just said.
Harry, the perception is absolutely different than what we just chatted about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, on one side, the glass is half full, and then conversely, the glass is half empty. So I find it amazing that, when I read this the other day, I said, wow, this is something that we need to save and we need to chat about with your listeners, because you think about how that resonates across what we do all day long. Bring point counterpoint, like think about Atlantic City here. Okay, the negative press, the bias, the municipal bonds that we chatted about last week getting beat up, and maybe rightfully so, but look at everything that's happening on the flip side. I mean, how much publicity have you heard around the fact that Showboat's going to reopen?
Right. They're having a job fair.
They're having a job fair. Have you heard?
Borgata is having a huge addition to their property.
I mean, have you heard anything?
No, nothing. Because nothing can break through right now because of perception versus reality versus substance. But we have to break through at the national level for the health of our country, and here at the local level. And you're right, Chuck, this is a great way to end your program today, because at the local level it is the same thing. Because when Meat AC goes out and bust their rear ends to bring people to Atlantic City, and the people that can pull the trigger say, you know what, I'm just reading too many horrible things, and the board's not approving it, we're going somewhere else. Whereas, like when Al Roker said that the boardwalk was destroyed, they took 2-3 years trying to explain to people that it wasn't destroyed. It was a broken section of the boardwalk that was condemned and being torn down next week. And so perception became reality, didn't it?
Absolutely. And Harry, I think that the markets right now, you think about the diverging forces that are out there. The fact of the matter is that it's been a challenging year for anyone to make money, in the equity markets. I mean, the S&P finally broke through and is up about 4% year to date. The Dow's up a little bit less than 4%. The NASDAQ is just about break even. You've had, international markets sort of teetering between positive and negative. We need to get through the Brexit, so to speak, and we need to get through November.
Because it is hard to tell someone, no, you don't understand. It's much better than you think. When someone has their mind made up, the perception trumps reality.
Oh, absolutely, Harry. No doubt about it.
Anything you want to share in closing?
I think we're good. Looking forward to a week from Friday.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. We'll come out and visit with you, and keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully, the markets keep moving in the right direction for all of us.
Chuck Malamut, have a great day. You've been listening to Chuck Malamut, Managing Director of his team, the Malamut Group, at Northfield's Morgan Stanley office. They're at 1601 New Road, Northfield. 609-383-2010. That's the number to reach Chuck and his team, 609-383-2010. And what you've been listening to this hour is a program presented weekly by Chuck Malamut from Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this program are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. We'll be back. And when we come back in just a few minutes, I have an official response to the gentlelady's comment about Congressman Lobiondo voting affirmative for this bathroom, transgendered bathroom issue. What she said, I will tell you up front, is not true, but I will back it up in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.